I spent Mother's Day completely alone while my children went off to a friend's party, even though I had confirmed with them the day before that they would be coming to brunch, and they had both said yes. I cried the entire afternoon in the empty living room, but that very night they returned asking for money to pay their bills. What they didn't know was that I had already bought my one-way ticket, and that changed everything. The table had been set since 11 o'clock in the morning. Clean linens, the good china I only brought out for special occasions, the cloth napkins I had ironed the night before. In the center, a modest arrangement of flowers I bought with the last few dollars left from my Social Security check. The chicken was in the oven, the potatoes peeled, the salad prepared, everything ready for Mother's Day brunch. I had confirmed with them the day before. I called Sasha first. She answered in a rush like always, with that tone of voice she used when she was multitasking while talking to me. I asked if they were coming tomorrow. She said, "Yes, Mama. Of course, we'll be there." Then I called Leo. He was more direct. "Yeah, Ma. We're coming. Don't worry about it." He hung up fast. I was relieved. I thought that this time would be different. I thought that this time they would remember. I settled onto the living room sofa and waited. I looked at the clock at 12 o'clock. Nothing. By 12:30, I started to feel that familiar knot in my stomach. At 1 o'clock sharp, the chicken was ready. I took it out of the oven. The smell filled the empty house. I set the table and sat down. I waited a little longer. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I dialed Sasha's number. No answer. I tried Leo. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. The chicken was getting cold, the potatoes too. I got up and walked to the window. The street was quiet. Some families passed by, walking, laughing, mothers with their children, flowers in their hands, hugs. I returned to the table. I sat alone across from all those empty plates. Then I understood. They weren't coming again. Not this year. Just like last year, just like my birthday, just like Christmas. They always had an excuse, always something more important than me. I stayed seated there for I don't know how long. The clock ticked to 3, then 4, then 5. The evening light began to shift. The shadows stretched longer in the room. Everything was so silent that I could hear my own breathing. I could hear the sound of my heart breaking once more. At 6 o'clock in the evening, I got up and put the food in the fridge. No one was going to eat it. I cleared the dishes, folded the linens, put away the napkins, and tossed the flowers in the trash. They were wilted anyway, just like me. I sat back down on the sofa, and that's when the tears started to fall. They weren't loud tears. They weren't dramatic sobs. They were silent tears, the kind that hurt the most because they come from deep inside. From the place where you keep all the disappointments you don't want to admit, the place where you know the truth but prefer to pretend it doesn't exist. I cried thinking about all the Mother's Days I'd spent alone. I cried thinking about all the times they had promised to come and didn't. I cried thinking that I had given my whole life for them and they couldn't give me even one afternoon. I'm 70 years old. 70 years of life, 48 years of being a mother. And that day, in that empty room, I realized something I had been denying for a long time. My children didn't love me. Or maybe they did love me, but not enough. Not enough to remember, not enough to be present, not enough to care. Night fell and I was still there, unmoving, without turning on the lights. Just me, the darkness, and that weight on my chest that I didn't know how to remove anymore. I thought about calling them again. I thought about sending them a text. I thought about telling them how I felt, but I didn't, because I knew they would say the same old thing. Sorry, Mama. Things got complicated. Next time. Always the next time, which never came. It was almost 10 o'clock at night when I heard the car pull up outside. I recognized the engine sound. It was Leo's. Then I heard voices, laughter, footsteps in the yard, the key in the lock, the door opening. They flipped on the living room light and saw me sitting there in the dark with swollen eyes, my soul shattered. Sasha was the first to speak. Hey, Mama. We just thought we'd stop by. She was wearing a fancy dress, her makeup perfect. She smelled of expensive perfume and alcohol. Leo came in behind her. He was also dressed up. New shirt, shiny shoes. He looked at me with that casual smile he used when he wanted something. Hey, Ma. How was your day? I didn't answer. I couldn't. I had a knot in my throat that kept me from speaking. I looked at them and saw everything. I saw the truth I had been avoiding. They had been at a party, having fun, drinking, laughing, while I was crying alone in this empty room. Sasha sat down in the armchair across from me. Leo remained standing. There was an uncomfortable silence. Then Sasha pulled out her phone, looked at the screen, and looked back at me. "Mama, we need to talk about something important." Leo approached and sat on the arm of the sofa. "Yeah, Ma, we have a problem. We need you to help us." Sasha nodded. "It's urgent, Mama. It's the monthly bills. Everything piled up. Leo's rent, my credit card. It's about $3,000. We need you to lend it to us." I looked at them both. There were my children. The children I had worked for until my back broke. The children for whom I had given up everything. The children who hadn't come to brunch with me on Mother's Day. But they came that very night to ask me for money. Something broke inside me at that moment. Something that was never going to be put back together. I looked at them and thought about the envelope I had tucked away in my bedroom. The envelope with the bus ticket, the one-way ticket with no return. They didn't know yet. They didn't know that I had already made a decision. They didn't know that this was going to be the last time they saw me like this. Quiet, submissive, available. They didn't know that everything was about to change. And while they continued talking about their problems, their debts, their needs, I only thought about one thing. My name is Evelyn Shaw. I'm 70 years old, and I already bought my one-way ticket. It wasn't always like this. There was a time when my children hugged me when they got home from school. A time when Sasha ran to me yelling, "Mama," and clung to my neck. A time when Leo sought me out to tell me everything he had learned that day. There was a time when I was important to them. We were poor, but we were happy. Or at least I thought we were happy. We lived in a small house on the edge of Cedar Glen. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen where the 4 of us barely fit. My husband, Robert, worked construction. I cleaned houses. Between the 2 of us, we scraped together enough to eat and pay the rent. We didn't have anything left over, but we didn't go without either. The children were small. Sasha was 6 years old. Leo was 4. They ran around the house barefoot. They played with rocks and sticks because we didn't have money for toys. But they didn't care. They were children. They were innocent. They didn't yet know that we were poor. They didn't yet know that other families had more. I bathed them every night in that old tub we had. I washed their hair carefully, trimmed their nails, put on the clean clothes I had washed by hand that afternoon, put them to bed, and told them stories until they fell asleep. They were my whole life, my reason for waking up every morning. Robert was a good man, quiet, hardworking. He didn't talk much, but he loved me in his own way. He came home tired from work, sat at the table, and ate what I had prepared. Sometimes he looked at me and said, "Thank you, Evelyn. That was enough for me. I didn't need more." But everything changed when Robert died. It was an accident at the construction site. A beam fell wrong. He didn't suffer, they told me. It was quick, as if the speed of death made it hurt less, as if it were a comfort. He was 42 years old. I was 38. Sasha was 12, and Leo was 10. Suddenly, I was alone with 2 children. No steady job, no savings, nothing more than my hands and my will to keep going. The survivor benefits they gave me after Robert's death were pitiful. $500 a month. It wasn't enough even for food. So I worked. I worked like I had never worked in my life. I cleaned 3 houses in the morning, washed other people's clothes in the afternoon, ironed at night. I slept 4 hours if I was lucky. I got up before dawn and I went to bed after midnight. My hands became calloused. My back started aching. My knees began to give out. But I didn't care because my children were okay. Because Sasha and Leo had food on the table. Because they could go to school. Because they had clean clothes. Because they had shoes. Because they had a mother who would give her life for them. And I was ready to give it. Sasha was the oldest, always more serious, more responsible. She helped me with Leo, looked after him when I had to work late, prepared dinner for him, helped him with his homework. She was an adult child in a child's body, and I felt guilty about that, for robbing her of her childhood, for forcing her to grow up so fast. Leo was different. Cheerful, a dreamer, always inventing things. He drew on any paper he could find. He told me that when he grew up, he was going to be an artist, that he was going to be famous, that he was going to buy me a big house, and that I would never have to work again. And I believed him because mothers always believe their children. The years passed. They grew up. The house felt smaller and smaller. Sasha started complaining. She said her friends had better things, better houses, better clothes, better lives. She looked at me with that silent reproach that hurt more than any word. As if it were my fault we were poor. As if I wasn't doing everything possible. Leo changed, too. He stopped drawing. He stopped dreaming. He started hanging out with other boys. He came home late and wouldn't tell me where he had been. When I asked, he answered in monosyllables. He became distant, cold, like a stranger living in my house. But I kept working, kept sacrificing myself. Because that's what mothers do. Because I thought that someday they would understand, that someday they would be grateful, that someday they would tell me, "Thank you, Mama, for everything you did for us." When Sasha turned 18, she got a job at a downtown store. She started earning her own money. I thought she would help me. I thought that now that she was working, I could rest a little. But no. Sasha saved every cent. She bought new clothes, new shoes, makeup, perfumes. She went out with her friends. And when I asked her to contribute something to the house, she looked at me like I was asking for her kidney. Leo barely finished school. He didn't want to go to college. He said college wasn't for him, that he was going to get a job, that he was going to make money, that he didn't need more education. I didn't insist. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of everything. He got a job at a mechanic shop. He earned little, but it was something. I thought he would stay with me, that he would help me with expenses, but after 6 months, he told me he was moving out. He had found an apartment with some friends. He needed his space. He was a man now, and he couldn't stay living with me forever. I remained silent. I didn't tell him that I felt abandoned. I didn't tell him that I was afraid of being alone. I didn't say anything. I just helped him pack his things. I gave him money for the first month's rent. Money I didn't have. Money I took from my meager savings, and I watched him leave without looking back. Sasha left 2 years later. She met a man, fell in love, and got married. She didn't invite me to the wedding. Well, she did invite me, but it was one of those obligatory invitations you make because you have to. I went to the wedding. I sat in a corner. No one talked to me. No one introduced me. No one made me feel important. I was just the mother of the bride, an afterthought, an obligation. Sasha's marriage lasted 3 years. Then she divorced, came back to my house crying, telling me the man had cheated on her, that he had treated her badly, that she needed a place to stay. I took her in. Of course, I took her in. She was my daughter. But she didn't thank me. She stayed for 6 months, recovered, met another man, and left again without saying goodbye. Leo never married. He had girlfriends, many girlfriends, all fleeting, all the same. He introduced them to me when he needed to impress them. "Look, this is my mama. Bless her heart. She lives alone, always so sacrificial." And they looked at me with pity, with that pity that makes you feel small, invisible, unnecessary. The years kept passing. I kept working. Even though I couldn't clean houses like before, even though my back hurt so much that there were days I couldn't get out of bed, even though my hands trembled, even though my knees wouldn't hold me up, they kept coming. Sasha and Leo kept coming when they needed something. Money, almost always. $200 for rent, $300 for a debt, $500 for an emergency. They never quite explained. And I gave. I always gave. Even if I had to skip buying my medicine. Even if I had to eat less. Even if I had to turn off the heat in winter to save. Because they were my children. Because I loved them. Because I thought that someday they would change. That someday they would grow up. That someday they would realize everything I had done for them. But that day never came. And while I waited for that day, they kept taking, kept asking, kept forgetting about me until that Mother's Day. Until that day I sat in the empty living room crying, waiting, slowly dying inside. And they arrived that night, smelling of partying and having fun, of a life I never had, and asked me for $3,000 as casually as asking for a glass of water. That's when something clicked in my head. When I understood that this was never going to change, that they were never going to change. That I could keep giving and giving until I dropped dead, and they would keep taking without thanks, without remembering, without loving. That night, I didn't give them the money. I told them I didn't have it. Sasha got mad. She made that face she made when things didn't go her way. But Mama, you always have something tucked away. You always help us. It can't be that right now you have nothing. Her voice had that accusatory tone, as if I owed her something, as if it were my obligation to solve her life. Leo was more direct. Ma, we seriously need this money. It's not a whim. These are real debts. If we don't pay, we're going to get into trouble. He looked at me, expecting me to give in. Because I always gave in. I always ended up giving them what they asked for, even if it left me with nothing. But this time I didn't give in. I looked at them and told them no. That I didn't have that money, that I barely had enough to live on, that my Social Security check was only $1,200 a month, and that I had to pay for electricity, water, food, and medicine with that. That I had nothing left over, that I couldn't help them this time. Sasha got up from the armchair and exhaled in frustration. Unbelievable, Mama. Right now, when we really need you, you can't help us. Leo also stood up. Well, then we'll have to figure it out some other way. Thanks anyway. His thank you sounded empty, fake, like everything that came out of his mouth lately. They left without saying goodbye, without asking how I was, without noticing that I had been crying all afternoon, without seeing the table I had set for them, without caring that it was Mother's Day and they had left me alone. They left and closed the door, and I stayed there again. In that empty living room, in that empty house, in that empty life. I stayed awake all night. I couldn't sleep. My mind wouldn't stop going over everything. The years, the sacrifices, the times I had gone without eating so they could eat. The times I had worked sick to pay for their school. The times I had given them even what I didn't have. And they didn't even remember. They weren't even grateful. To them, I was just an ATM, a place to come when they needed something, a resource, not a person, not their mother, just a source of money that should always be available. The next day, I got up early. I hadn't slept, but I got up anyway. I made myself a cup of coffee, sat in the kitchen, and made a decision. I was going to investigate. I was going to know the truth. Because something didn't add up. Leo had a job. Sasha did, too. Both of them earned more than me. So why did they always need money? Where was all their income going? I opened my phone and went onto social media, something I almost never did. But Sasha had shown me once. I searched for Sasha's profile first. And there it all was. Photos and more photos. Sasha in expensive restaurants. Sasha in new dresses. Sasha on trips to the beach. Sasha at parties. Sasha with drinks in her hand. Sasha smiling. Sasha living a life that, according to her, she couldn't afford. A life full of luxuries while she was asking me for rent money. I kept scrolling. More photos. More restaurants. More clothes. More trips. Posts from a week ago, 2 days ago, yesterday, last night. A picture from the party she went to instead of coming to brunch with me. She was with her friends, all made up, all in fancy clothes. The description read, "Perfect day with my favorites, 2 hearts, smiling face with smiling eyes, #happiness, a perfect day." While I was crying alone in my house. A perfect day. I searched for Leo's profile. More of the same. Photos at bars, photos with friends, photos with new motorcycles, photos in designer clothes, photos at concerts, photos at events. A full life, an expensive life, a life that didn't match someone who couldn't pay his bills. I stared at those photos for hours. I felt a strange feeling in my chest. It wasn't just sadness. It was something deeper. It was the feeling of having been cheated, of having been used, of having been foolish for all those years. Then I saw something that chilled my blood. A group chat. Sasha had accidentally posted a screenshot. Or maybe not accidentally. Maybe she didn't care who saw it. It was a group called the Shaw Kids. It was just the 2 of them, Sasha and Leo. The screenshot showed part of a conversation. Leo had written, "Did you ask the old woman yet?" Sasha replied, "Not yet, but I know how I'm going to work her. I'll tell her it's urgent. You know how she is. She always falls for it." Leo, LOL. Yeah, poor thing. But hey, that's what she had us for, right? To take care of her when she's old. And in the meantime, she can fund us a little longer. I read that once, twice, 3 times. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The old woman. Poor thing. Fund us a little longer. That's how they talked about me. That's what they thought of me. As a burden, as a future obligation, as someone to make fun of in the meantime. I closed the phone. My hands were shaking. I felt nauseous. I got up and went to the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 70-year-old woman, tired, worn out, with deep wrinkles, completely white hair, sad eyes, hands deformed from working so much. This was me, Evelyn Shaw, the woman who had given her whole life for 2 children who called her the old woman. I went back to my bedroom and opened the drawer of my nightstand. I took out an old box where I kept important papers, documents, receipts, proofs of payment. I started reviewing everything. I mentally tallied up how much money I had given them over the last 5 years. $20,000. In 5 years, I had given them $20,000. Money I took from my Social Security check. Money I saved by not buying things for myself. Money I borrowed and was still paying back. $20,000 that they spent on parties, clothes, trips, and whims while telling me it was for emergencies, for urgent debts, for necessities. They lied to me. They had always lied to me. And I had always believed them. Because that's what foolish mothers do. Believe their children even when all the signs say they shouldn't. I put the papers away, closed the box, and sat on the edge of my bed. In that moment, I understood something fundamental. If I didn't change this, no one would. They were never going to wake up one day and decide to treat me better. They were never going to be grateful. They were never going to appreciate me. They were never going to love me as I loved them. I had 2 options. Continue like this until I died. Keep being the old woman who funds them. Keep giving them everything until I had nothing left. Until I died alone and forgotten in this house, while they continued with their perfect lives, posting happy photos online. Or I could do something different. Something I had never done. Something that scared me just to think about. I could choose myself for the first time in 70 years. I got up, went to the living room, and turned on the old computer I had, the one Leo had given me years ago when it was too slow for him. I went online and searched for retirement communities near the coast. I don't know why I searched for that. Maybe because I had always dreamed of seeing the ocean, of living near the water, of hearing the waves, of feeling the breeze. Things I never did because I was always too busy giving my life to others. Several results popped up. Quiet places, communities for older adults, small but respectable homes, affordable prices. Far from the city, far from this life, far from them. I wrote down some numbers, some names, some addresses. I turned off the computer, and there, sitting in the room where I had cried the day before, I started planning something I never thought I would do. I started planning my escape, my freedom, my new life. A life where Evelyn Shaw wouldn't be the old woman, where she wouldn't be the thunder, where she wouldn't be the forgotten mother. A life where I could simply be Evelyn. A woman. A person. Someone who matters. The story continues in this vein, detailing Evelyn's secret planning with her loyal friend Martha, her consultation with a lawyer, her discreet investigations into her children's lives, the legal changes she makes, and her ultimate preparation to leave. She invites them for a final dinner where she presents them with evidence of their deceit, explains her new will and financial changes, and reveals she is leaving. The story concludes with her journey to the coastal town of Seabridge, her new home by the ocean, her newfound peace, and her final reflection on choosing herself. My name is no longer theirs. I am no longer just Sasha and Leo's mother. I am no longer just Robert's widow. I am no longer the woman who gives, and gives until she is nothing. My name is Evelyn. Simply Evelyn. A 71-year-old woman who lives by the ocean, who has true friends, who wakes up happy, who goes to sleep peacefully, who knows the taste of freedom, who learned that it's never too late to choose herself. My story with them ended, but my story is just beginning. And this story is only mine. No one can take it from me. No one can ruin it. Because I finally learned the most important lesson of all, that self-love is not selfishness. That taking care of yourself is not betrayal. That choosing your happiness is not cruelty. I closed my diary and looked at the ocean. The waves continued their eternal rhythm. The sun finished setting. The stars began to appear. I smiled. Tomorrow would be another beautiful day. Another day of my new life. Another day of simply being Evelyn. And that was more than enough.